Forces take full control of a government complex in central Ramadi, the last stronghold of Daesh terrorists in the western city. Israeli forces shoot dead 2 Palestinian youths under claims they stabbed 2 soldiers in the village of Hawara near the West Bank city of Nablus. And a senior Russian military official says that since the start of a bombing campaign in Syria nearly 3 months ago, Russian air forces have not hit a single civilian target. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. The Iraqi army declared victory over Daesh terrorists in Ramadi, the first major triumph for the forces since Ramadi collapsed in the face of an assault by the terrorists 18 months ago. After encircling the city for weeks, the Iraqi military launched a campaign to retake it last week and made a final push to seize the central administration complex today. A military spokesman said the complex is now totally under the control of the army, adding that the next step was to clear pockets that could exist in the complex or in the city. Counter-terrorism units leading the fight on the government side said they did not encounter any resistance from Daesh, who seem to have already fled the area. After Ramadi, the army plans to move to retake the northern city of Mosul. Israeli forces shot dead 2 Palestinian youths under claims they stabbed 2 soldiers. The Israeli military alleged the 2 men stabbed a soldier in the village of Hawara near the West Bank city of Nablus when they responded by firing towards them and killing them. The Palestinian Ministry of Health said the 2 were relatives, aged 17 and 23. Earlier in the day, a Palestinian woman was taken into custody, again under stabbing pretext of an Israeli near the West Bank settlement of Ma'ale Shamron, west of Nablus. And a similar arrest for the same reasons was made of a woman at the entrance to Hebron's Ibrahimi Mosque. Since October, Israeli forces have killed 135 Palestinians, while about 15,000 were injured and 2,000 arrested. Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah warned Israel that retaliation for the death of Hezbollah member Samir Qantar in Syria was inevitable, whatever the consequences. In a televised speech at a ceremony in Beirut to mark a week since Qantar was killed in an Israeli strike, Nasrallah said Israelis should brace themselves for a response. The Israelis should be justifiably worried. They should be worried along the border, inside Israel and outside, he said. Qantar was jailed in Israel for his part in a 1979 raid in Israel when he was a member of a Palestinian resistant group. He was later repatriated to Lebanon in a 2008 prisoner swap with Hezbollah. Syrian media said Qantar was involved in an offensive in Qnitra near the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights earlier this year. Commander-in-Chief of Russia's aerospace forces, Viktor Bondarev, has assured that since they started a bombing campaign in Syria nearly 3 months ago, Russian air forces have not hit civilian targets. Speaking in an interview with Rossiya 24 television, the Colonel General said the Russian forces have never missed their targets, adding that the whole operation was planned in detail in advance and the armed forces have shown how they work, what they bomb and what the results are. Amnesty International said this week that Russia's bombing of Syria killed many civilians and could amount to a war crime, but Russia's defense ministry strongly rejected the allegations.
We have thoroughly thought it through before going there. We have prepared the pilots, mastered cooperation with both local Syrian leadership and of course our intelligence. We have specified what is located, where and which areas we can target and which we should target with caution. And thanks to that, you can see the results are evident.
NATO will move Airborne Warning and Control System, or AWACS, surveillance planes from Germany to Turkey to strengthen Ankara's air defenses on its border with Syria. The report was published by German media and was also confirmed by Berlin's defense ministry. NATO allies agreed earlier this month to strengthen Turkey's defenses on its border with Syria, saying the move was partly designed to minimize the risk of any repeat of Turkey's November 24 shooting down of a Russian warplane plane that flew into Turkish airspace. AWACS monitor airspace within a radius of more than 400 kilometers and exchange information via digital data links with ground-based, sea-based and airborne commanders. Meanwhile, the United States and allied forces conducted a total of 33 strikes against the terrorist group Daesh in Iraq and Syria. A statement by the Combined Joint Task Force said 6 of the 28 strikes in Iraq hit near Sinjar, targeting tactical units and destroying fighting positions, 2 bridges used by the group and 2 culverts. The coalition also struck targets near Mosul, Fallujah and Ramadi using fighter, attack, bomber and remotely piloted aircraft. While in Syria, 2 strikes near Raqqa destroyed Daesh excavators and bulldozers. Another 3 strikes struck near Manbij, hitting tactical units, vehicles and a weapons cache. And here at home, the border guards have received a total of 187 Syrian refugees during the last 3 days, according to military officials. The Syrian newcomers from various age groups were provided with needed assistance and medical attention.
The village of Whalley in northwest England is among the casualties of the torrential rain pounding parts of the UK. Up to 120 millimetres of rain was expected in some areas of the region. Troops have been drafted in to help build flood defences, but there are fears there's still more to come.
We're not yet at the point that we know how bad it's going to be. The water levels are still rising, so it's very much wait and see and continue to plan for the worst case.
The UK weather forecasters issued several rare red weather warnings for the northwest. They're only issued when there's a risk of danger to life. Forecasts for the area suggest the rain will ease over the coming days before more downpours next week. More than 300 flood warnings are in place across the country. In early December, more than 5,200 properties in the northwest were affected by flood.
And in the United States, at least 11 people were killed in the Dallas area from a storm system packing torrential rains and unleashing a string of tornadoes that toppled homes, cut power lines and snarled transport. The worst hit area was in Garland, northeast of Dallas, where 8 people were killed, cars blown off highways and homes flattened. 3 other deaths were reported in the Dallas metro area, the U.S. 4th most populous, with about 7 million people. The National Weather Service has issued severe weather warning for large parts of the central United States that include a blizzard warning for parts of New Mexico, Texas, Oklahoma and Kansas. The weekend tornadoes follow a series that hit just before the weekend, mostly in the U.S. South, that left at least 17 dead. British adventurer John Beedon completed the adventure of a lifetime and became the first person to row solo non-stop from North America to the Australian mainland. Beedon rowed more than 7,400 nautical miles across the Pacific Ocean after leaving San Francisco in his 6-meter boat on June 1st this year. The 53-year-old has been rowing for up to 15 hours a day and had previously rowed the Atlantic Ocean solo before deciding to tackle the Pacific Ocean. Beedon was greeted by his wife, 2 daughters, and a crowd who had gathered on the dock in Cairns in far north Queensland. FIFA presidential candidates called for reform to World Soccer's governing body. At the 10th Dubai International Sports Conference, His Royal Highness Prince Ali ibn al-Hussein and Gianni Infantino said reforms are needed for the organization to emerge from the worst crisis in its history. Prince Ali spoke of his desire to implement change in FIFA should he be chosen as president. UEFA General Secretary Infantino stated his belief that only strong leadership could bring about the necessary reforms at the organization. Prince Ali and Infantino are 2 of 5 men seeking to replace FIFA President Sepp Blatter in the February 26 elections in Zurich.
And that we come back to the sport of football itself, and that's It's just reinforced my commitment to make sure that we get FIFA in the right place and that we come back to the sport of football itself, and that's my incentive, and every day it gets stronger and stronger.
I think what we need now is indeed a strong leadership, is to implement the reforms immediately, and I think this experience is certainly there, and I'm looking very much forward to be able to show it in the next couple of months. And then.
After watching Stoke City swat aside his timid Manchester United team 2-0 in the Premier League yesterday, Louis van Gaal hinted that he could vacate the Old Trafford seat. This was United's fourth loss in a row in all competitions. Speaking to the press after the game, Van Gaal hinted that he could resign, noting that the case isn't always that the club has to fire or sack him. But he added that he wants to speak first with the board of Man United and with members of his staff and the players. United, down to 6th in the Premier League, face Chelsea on Monday, and it remains to be seen if Van Gaal would still be there by then.
With my players. And not with you.
And finally, relatively cold conditions continue for the rest of tonight and tomorrow, with southeasterly moderate to brisk winds. Frost formation is also expected in hilly areas, the Badia and the northern Jordan Valley. The Gulf of Aqaba should expect fair conditions tomorrow, with northerly moderate to brisk winds and slightly high seas. Here now is the temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Iraqi forces take full control of a government complex in central Ramadi, the last stronghold of Daesh terrorists in the western city. Israeli forces shoot dead 2 Palestinian youths under claims they stabbed 2 soldiers in the village of Huwara near the West Bank city of Nablus. And a senior Russian military official says that since the start of a bombing campaign in Syria nearly 3 months ago, Russian air forces have not hit a single civilian target. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us and have a good night.